Hello everyone, it's Robin the Delta Crafter, and boy am I excited about today's video. I'm going to be making a couple of background panels, and I'm going to be combining Distress Oxide and Distress inks. Yes, combining both of them on one background panel. Now I didn't even know that this was even possible until I watched Tim Holt's live Q&A that he did on Distress and Distress Oxide inks this past weekend. I'll leave a link to the video in the description below. I thought I knew a lot about distress inks and distress oxides, but boy was I wrong. I learned so much by watching this video, and I hope that I get to share some of what I learned with you guys. So I'm going to be making two backgrounds. One is going to be a vibrant background, and the other one is going to be a little bit more pale and muted. So here I am showing you the two different sets of inks that I'm going to be using, and I'm actually going to be making a substitution in that set that's on the right. I was using cracked pistachio originally, and then I decided to take that out and replace it with lucky clover. Now notice each stack has a couple of distress oxide inks and a couple of distress inks in them. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first background panel. I'm going to be using the Ranger watercolor paper that you see right here. It comes in 8.5 by 11 sheets, and so I just cut them down to make an A2 panel, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5. I'm also going to be using my distress sprayer because this sprayer allows me to have two different types of mist or sprays that I use in this background. So the first panel that I'm going to be making is going to be using the vibrant color set that I created. And so I'm going to take my distress inks and my distress oxide inks. I'm just going to press those onto the craft mat side of my Tonic Studios glass media mat. And so the first time you press your paper into the inks, after I also added some water with my distress sprayer, that first time you press it in there, it's called a print. And so what you want to do is just lay your paper down, press it on, and then just pull it back up. One key thing to these layering methods, and especially with using the two different types of distress inks, is that you need to dry your panel in between each application. So you see I have my colors here. I've dried the panel, and now I'm about to go in and tap into the remaining color that's on my craft mat. Two other things that you want to have handy are a cloth towel and then a paper towel. And you'll see me use both of them throughout this video. So I'm just going back in, tapping into the ink, bringing it back to the other side of the glass media mat, and drying in between each application. And so here I am using the cloth towel to clean up my inks that were remaining, because I think I want to add some specific colors from this color set that I have created. So I'm going back in with a little bit of the pink, the yellow, and the blue. And this time, after I've added my inks to my craft mat, I'm going to go in with my fingers and kind of swirl them around a little bit to break them up. Got to spray your water first, but you want to go in and break up that block because of the way the stamp pad pushed the ink onto the craft mat. You want to kind of break that up a little bit so you get a little bit more organic look to your ink. So right here you can see there's a little bit of a green that's being created in the middle. That paper towel is your friend. You can come in and dab off some of that ink that on your panel and kind of absorb it and take it up and kind of remove it from your panel so that you don't have a color being created that you don't necessarily want. So now I'm going in with yet another layer, and this time I'm using just the purple and the wilted violet. So again, I had a little bit of a darker color that I was undesirable that was being created there. So I went in with my paper towel and just dabbed that up off of my panel before I dried it. And that's key, that you do it before you dry it. So I think I am done with all of the layering of the different types of inks. So I'm going to clean up my craft mat and then keep going. One thing that I learned and had not thought about before was just because I've gone in with a wet technique using my Distress inks and Distress Oxide inks, doesn't mean that I can't go back in with just the inks and add a little bit of the ink colors in various different places with using either a brush, blending brush, or a foam pad. I used the domed foams with the purple, and now I'm using a blending brush with the Kitsch Flamingo. Kitsch Flamingo is the latest color in the Distress Oxide family, or Distress ink family, and I am absolutely in love with it. It is perfect. Perfect shade of pink. And so I'm going to come in with a third and final color just to add some highlights in certain areas with, I think this is, it's not Mermaid Lagoon. I'm not sure which blue it is. But I'm going to come in, it's Salty Ocean. I'm going to come in with some Salty Ocean, and now you can see how just adding those inks on the edges really brought this panel all together. And I'm very, very happy with how it turned out. But I'm not done yet. I've decided that I do want to take it a little bit further and add a little bit more texture and movement and feeling to this panel. And so I'm going to take my Distress sprayer and I'm just going to pull it about halfway, pull the trigger about halfway. By doing this with the Distress sprayer, you're able to get larger droplets of water. This is one of the things that I love about the Distress sprayer, because you can't get this with a lot of the products and sprays that are out there. So I've done that twice, and this is the final panel. So now it's time to make the second panel. And the second panel, if you remember, the color palette is a little bit more pale and pastel colored. So here are the colors that I'm using for this particular panel. And again, I have 5 different colors. This time I have 2 oxides and 3 distress inks. My technique that I'm going to use is the same as the technique I used for creating the first panel. It's just a different set of colors. So here I am smushing my ink pads onto the craft mat side of the glass media mat. And again, going to be doing the same thing. Going to wet these inks with my Distress sprayer, and I'm going to print my very first layer. So here's my very first layer, and I decided to go ahead and spray a little bit of water onto the panel because that blue and that pink was a little bit more I just needed it to move a little bit more. It was a little bit too stuck for me. So I sprayed some water directly onto the panel, which is watercolor paper. So it's perfectly okay to get that to spread out a little bit. And you can already see that this ink is a lot more pale than the other previous color set. So we've gotten all the way through all the layers of the ink, and now I'm just going in with the Distress sprayer and adding the droplets to pick up some of that ink and create yet more texture on these panels. I ended up using about 5 layers of inking on these panels and about 2 layers of water droplets. And to do all of that, it took me probably less than 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes per panel to create them. Because there's not a lot of moisture on there, it doesn't take a whole lot of time to dry in between layers, so it goes rather quickly. Here are both panels side by side, and you can see the one on the right is a lot more vibrant than the one on the left, but that's intentional, and I like it that way. But wait, there's more. This time I'm going to be doing some more layering of ink colors, but instead of mixing colors, I'm going to be staying in one color, just using different shades of that color. So I'm going to be creating one panel with several layers of pinks and another panel with several layers of blue. So we're going to get started with the pink one. With the pink one, with these panels, I'm going to do one color per layer. So instead of mixing colors or mixing the shades, I'm just going to do one color per layer. And I'm starting with my lightest color. So for this pink panel that I'm creating, I'm starting with this Kitsch Flamingo, which is my lightest pink. Then I moved to Worn Lipstick, and I finished off with Picked Raspberry. And you can see in the panel how using one color at a time created the depth that you can see in that panel. So I'm going to do this very same thing with the set of blue inks. So here I'm coming in with Speckled Egg, Broken China, and I'm going to finish off with Salty Ocean. So I'm going to put down a layer of Speckled Egg onto my panel. And then my very first layer that I put down, I pretty much cover the whole panel because I know as I build the colors, they're darker. And so they can take over the panel if I'm not careful. So I put a lot more of the lighter color down and then ease up as I go along. Now it's time to cut out the things that I'm going to be making, because what I'm actually making are some tags for some gifts that I'm going to be sending out for Easter. So I'm going to be using the the Building Egg set from Honeybee Stamps. And I'm going to be using the nested tag dies from Hero Arts to cut the tags. So off camera, I went ahead and die cut all the parts and pieces and the layers to the eggs and the the tags. So here is an oldie but a goodie. This is the Chocolate Bunny stamp from Stampin' Up. I have had this stamp for a very long time, but I absolutely adore it. So what I've decided to do for these tags is I'm going to make a couple of different shades of Chocolate Bunnies. So I'm going to use 3 different shades of brown distress inks to stamp on the tags, and make it look like there are 3 different types of Chocolate Bunny, like maybe a milk chocolate, a dark chocolate, and so forth. So here I am. I'm going to finish up with this last bunny, the darkest bunny, on the tag on the left, and that's going to complete my stamping. And I just really like the way the bunnies kind of look like shadows in the background on these tags. Now it's time to add some decorations at the bottom. So here are a pair of scissors that I purchased. I've had these scissors for several years, and I don't even remember the name of them. I want to say they're strip making shears or something like that. But anyway, they're from Martha Stewart when Michaels carried the Martha Stewart line. And what they are is they're scissors that are actually 5 sets of scissor blades in one handle. I have used these things on many different projects, and every time I use them, someone asks me, how did you do that? How did you get your strips so perfect? And I tell them, and now they want my scissors. But they can't have them because I'm holding on to these. So I use them all along this green panel that I created. And by the way, I created this panel a couple of weeks ago and kind of just had it on hand and ready to go if I ever needed it. The difference one of the things to note about this particular panel, and it came into play here, is that I distress inked both sides of this. This is also watercolor paper, but I distress inked both sides of it. And because I'm going to be using this as grass, and as you can see, I've kind of crumpled it up a little bit, having both sides of it inked up is going to make the tag just look that much more finished. So now it's time to assemble the tags. So I'm going to put my eggs down, and I layered up all the eggs, excuse me, off camera, and got those all layered up. And I just love the way those watercolor panels look behind the white top layer of the eggs. And so now I'm going to add the grassy layer down, and you can see again I'm crumpling up and kind of giving the grass some layers of dimension. And so having that panel inked on both sides is going to just really, again, create, give that a nice finished look to these tags. Cutting off the extra here, and you best believe I put those extra little pieces in my little stash, because who knows, I might be able to use those in some other project later on. The finishing touch on these tags will be just a little bit of embellishments. So I had some iridescent like little drops in my stash that I'm going to add to the pink eggs. And then I added some clear Studio Katia clear drops to the blue tag. And my little drop here doesn't want to cooperate with me, but I'm not giving up until it obeys and does what I want it to do and goes where I want it to go. So I'm going to add a few more embellishments to the eggs, and that's going to complete the tags. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, I would appreciate you giving me a thumbs up. If you're on Instagram, you can find me there under the Delta Crafter, and also on Facebook under the same handle. I will be posting some closer pictures and things of these tags on my blog, thedeltacrafter.com. If you'd like to become a member of the Delta Crafter family, I would love for you to do so by clicking the subscribe button below, and also clicking the notification bell to be notified when I post new videos. Thanks for joining me today. Enjoy!